The story begins with the Tower of God, a place where anyone who reaches the top can have their wish granted. We meet a girl named Rachel, who is running away. Her friend Bam stops her and asks where she is going. She tells him she wants to climb the tower to see the stars and tells him to forget about her. Bam doesn't want to let her go, but she starts glowing and disappears as the door to the tower opens. Bam thinks he will never see her again until he hears a voice saying the answer is at the top of the tower. The door opens again, and a giant hand grabs him. Bam wakes up in a strange room and hears the voice again, saying all visitors are welcome. A mysterious creature named Hedon appears and introduces himself as the caretaker of the tower. Hedon knows Bam's name, which surprises him. Bam asks about Rachel, but Hedon says all questions will be answered at the top of the tower. Hedon asks Bam if he wants to take the test to enter the tower. He uses his staff to bring them to a cage with a monster inside. Hedon tells Bam that to pass the test, he must enter the cage and break the black sphere in the middle. He warns Bam that the tower is dangerous, but Bam rushes towards the monster anyway. As Bam is about to enter the cage, a girl named Yuri stops him and starts speaking in a foreign language. Her companion, Evan, arrives and tells Yuri that Bam can't understand them. Evan takes out a ball, and a light surrounds Bam, allowing him to understand them. The light turns into a floating ball called a pocket. Evan explains that the pocket is not only a translator but also their lifeline in the tower. Evan asks Bam to say "visible mode" to the pocket, and when he does, the ball disappears. Bam is shocked, but Evan explains it will return if he says "visible mode" again. Yuri sees Bam's reaction and realizes he is an irregular. Bam doesn't understand, so Yuri explains that an irregular is an outsider who entered the tower by opening the gates on their own. She also mentions he looks weak for an outsider. Evan is worried about getting involved with an irregular, but Yuri asks him what will happen if Bam gets eaten by the monster. Hedon interrupts, saying that even though Yuri is a princess of Zod, if the king finds out what they are doing, they will be executed. Yuri replies that the king will only find out if Hedon tells. She wonders why Hedon gave Bam such a difficult test, as even people on the 20th floor struggle with this monster. Yuri asks if Bam might have a hidden power or if he might transform, but she doesn't think he's special. The Black March's power depends on the user. It can be either useless or incredibly powerful. Evan opposes the idea because it's a weapon meant only for a princess of Zod, but Yuri decides to lend it to Bam. She hands him the sword, and though he hesitates, she convinces him to take it. Bam promises to return it after the test, but Yuri tells him to focus on staying alive. Bam enters the cage, but the monster rises and attacks. Yuri tries to help, but Hedon stops her, saying Bam will fail if she interferes. The monster swallows Bam, and Yuri tries to push Hedon away, but Evan stops her. Evan explains that Bam did the right thing by jumping into the monster's mouth to attack it from the inside. The monster spits Bam out, and Yuri gets angry at Evan for not telling Bam how to pass the test. Evan explains that even with the answer, few would let themselves get eaten. Bam approaches the black ball and strikes it with his sword, but it doesn't break. Hedon says he can't explain why but mentions the real test hasn't started yet. Bam recalls his memories with Rachel and continues stabbing the ball, but it remains unbroken. As the monster rises again and charges at him, Evan yells for Bam to speak to the sword. Bam asks the sword to lend him its power. A light bursts from the sword, pushing the monster away, and a woman appears before Bam. She asks if he wants power to climb the tower, but Bam says he only cares about seeing Rachel again. She calls him boring but decides to help because she thinks he's cute. Yuri mentions that the sword never lent its power to her and realizes it prefers men. The ball breaks, and Bam vanishes as Hedon reveals he has moved to the next floor. Evan panics because Bam took the Black March with him, but Yuri calms him down, saying they will follow him to retrieve the sword. Evan notes they are forbidden from entering the testing area for candidates, but Yuri thinks following the rules is boring. Bam wakes up on the second floor, where a black box announces there are 400 regulars on this floor, and to pass this level, the number must drop to 200 within the time limit. As the test begins, a warrior attacks Bam, pins him down, but is then shot by an archer, who is killed by a sniper. Bam realizes he needs to survive and prepares to attack an enemy in front of him. However, a boy named Kun appears, telling him his attack won't work. Bam points his sword at Kun, who warns him about another enemy behind him. Kun teases this enemy, calling him a talking alligator, which makes him angry. The alligator introduces himself as Rak, saying he has no interest in Kun and just wants to hunt Bam to become stronger. Kun thinks Rak is just another person blindly following orders, not questioning the higher-ups who told everyone to kill. As Kun is about to leave, Bam's weapon catches his attention. Kun decides to help by tripping Rak and making him think they're running away. Rak goes after them, but they're actually hiding behind another creature. Kun asks Bam where he got the Black March, as it's a weapon given to the princesses chosen by Zahard, the king of the tower. Bam explains that Yuri gave it to him, and that he's looking for someone. Kun realizes Bam isn't a regular. Bam follows Kun to a safe spot where they see on their pocket that 268 regulars remain. Kun asks if Bam has ever killed a regular, but Bam says he doesn't remember his past, except for what Rachel taught him. Kun asks if Rachel is his girlfriend, but Bam says he belongs to her and must climb the tower to see her. Kun thinks Rachel is Bam's driving force, though he doesn't fully understand. Kun asks Bam to become his ally, revealing that after hearing the rules of this floor, he decided not to kill anyone but to find allies among the 200 who survive. Rak suddenly appears behind them and tries to attack, but an announcement declares the limit of 200 has been reached. Anyone who continues to fight will fail the test. Everyone is told to find 2 allies within 5 minutes, and they will pass the test if they're touching their allies when the time ends. Kun thinks they need to ally with Rak, but Rak is still trying to fight them. They run away, wondering if he understood the rules. Rak explains he doesn't want to ally with his prey. With no other choice, Kun prepares to kill Rak and find another ally, but Bam reminds Rak that he wants to hunt him, so they should be the ones to fight. Rak agrees, but Bam throws away his weapon and tells Rak to kill him. Rak refuses to attack unless Bam uses his weapon, but Bam won't pick it up, causing Rak to lose his temper. Kun invites Rak to join them in climbing the tower, promising stronger opponents, but Rak refuses and attacks Kun. As time is running out, Kun clings to Rak, and Bam follows suit, allowing them to pass the test. The regulars gather together, and Kun sees that 120 people passed. Meanwhile, Rak is still trying to get Bam to fight, but Kun warns that if Bam reveals his weapon, others will hunt him down. Kun tells Rak that it will be better for him to fight Bam when he gets stronger. Rak thinks Kun is trying to trick him, but his stomach growls, so Kun gives him a candy bar. Meanwhile, 2 regulars start arguing, but the test administrator, Luro, stops them, reminding everyone that fighting is forbidden. The regulars immediately stop, recognizing Luro as a ranker. Bam is confused, so Kun explains that a ranker is someone who has reached the top of the tower. Luro announces that too many people have passed the test, so some must be eliminated. He uses a technique called Shinsu, shooting water from his hands to create a wall that pushes everyone back. He explains that Shinsu is the source of the tower's power, and the teams that make it through the wall will pass the test. Kun thinks Rak can pass through the wall but worries about Bam. To everyone's surprise, Bam is already on the other side of the wall, unaffected by the Shinsu. Luro declares that Bam has passed the test, considering luck to be an important factor in climbing the tower. While others try to get past the wall, Luro makes a bet with Bam on which person will get through first, with the winner getting to ask any question they want. Bam and Luro end up choosing the same person, resulting in a tie. Impressed, Luro agrees to answer Bam's questions. Bam asks if Luro has seen Rachel, but he hasn't. When Bam asks about irregulars, Luro explains that they are people who don't follow the tower's rules. He reveals that the tower consists of 3 sections: the outer tower, which is a residential district. Luro continues explaining that the tower has 3 sections: the inner tower, where they are now, the outer tower, where most people live their lives, and the middle area, which connects the 2. Most people are born and raised in the outer tower, but a few are chosen by Hedon to climb the inner tower. Bam wonders if everyone is born and raised in the tower, surprising Luro since this should be obvious. This makes Bam question if he and Rachel are the only ones from another world. Luro mentions that irregulars who enter the tower are usually incredibly strong. Their conversation is interrupted by a regular making a scene, claiming he shouldn't fail the test because he's strong and can even kill a rancor. Luro goes through the wall and covers the regular in Shinsu, telling him it can grant unlimited power if he can endure it. Luro explains that on the 30th floor, they will face this level of Shinsu daily, which surprises the regular. When Luro releases him, the regular falls to his knees. Rack and Kun also make it through the wall, although Kun's bag gets stuck briefly. Luro wishes Bam luck but warns him not to get too close to Kun. Bam looks up and calls the sky a ceiling, causing Rack to burst out laughing. Kun explains that it is indeed the sky, recalling Rachel's words that the night sky is filled with stars. However, Kun reveals that this sky is only an imitation created using Shinsu and admits he doesn't know if the real sky exists. He asks Bam if he wants to see the stars, but Bam says he was curious because Rachel entered the tower to see them. Kun feels something is off, wondering why Rachel left to climb the tower alone after taking care of him for so long. Bam insists there's nothing wrong with her. The next test begins, and they hear a scream, making them think it's going to be dangerous. As teams enter the testing area, Kun and Bam worry because the tests are ending quickly. A regular offers them a hint. Kun is skeptical, questioning how he knows this since they have no clues. The regular mentions that time is the main clue and reveals that the teams that haven't screamed pass the test within 5 minutes, meaning they must also pass it within this time. Bam thanks the regular, but Kun suspects he's trying to use them to test his theory. The regular warns that curiosity can be harmful and alludes to Kun's past betrayal, which angers Kun. He pins down the regular, threatening to kill him but restrains himself. Bam and the others enter the testing area, where they see a clock. Bam believes the regular was right, but Kun wants him to forget what was said. The test director, Yuhan, reveals that to pass the test, they must open the correct door. They only have one chance, and if they take longer than 10 minutes, the test will be forcefully terminated. Kun asks for more clues, but Yuhan says all the clues have been given, making Bam think this is a test of luck. The situation frustrates Rack, who doesn't like to think, and Bam tries to calm him down. Kun remains composed, searching the room for clues to find the correct door. Yuhan acknowledges someone who uses their head has finally arrived but believes this test can't be passed with intelligence alone. Kun questions the presence of a clock in the room since they can check the time on their pockets, pondering the hint the regular gave them. He recalls his troubled past when rumors circulated about him and his half-sister Maria being lovers. Maria was chosen as a princess of Zahard instead of his other sister, with whom he helped. After Maria's selection, Kun was abandoned, and his family exiled. As Kun tries to calm himself, Rack instinctively opens a door, leading them to pass the test. Yuhan explains they simply needed to open any door within 5 minutes. Kun is perplexed by what this test has actually evaluated. Yuhan realizes Kun's deep wounds from the princess's betrayal prevent him from trusting anything or acting decisively. Kun dismisses the significance of it all, but Yuhan points out that the world doesn't wait for certainty, emphasizing the need for companions who act without hesitation. We find out that the regular who gave the hint to Kun and Bam was acting under Yuhan's instructions to test their abilities. Meanwhile, Yuhan questions another test administrator named Quan about his trial, where only 3 people passed. Quan reveals he conducted the first and second tests simultaneously as an untimed survival match. Yuhan is shocked that the 3 survivors killed the other regulars within 30 minutes, raising suspicions if there was a regular or even a princess among them. Yuhan warns that if the higher-ups find out, both he and Quan could face execution. Despite this, Yuhan decides to aid Quan and calls Luro for support. Meanwhile, Bam struggles to buy a drink for Rack, but Lisu, another regular, steps in. Luro arrives and announces a bonus test opportunity for everyone. Lisu expresses concern about taking more tests, but Luro clarifies it's voluntary. Passing this test grants permission to continue climbing the tower as if they passed all previous tests. Everyone decides to participate. Luro explains the test. 5 teams will compete in a 5-minute game split into 5 rounds. Each team aims to steal the crown from another team. One team member wears the crown and defends it throughout the round. If they succeed in defending until the round ends, the other 4 teams are eliminated. New teams join in subsequent rounds, and if the crown wearer leaves their chair, the game immediately ends, initiating a new round with fresh teams. The team holding the crown at the end of the final round wins the game. In this test, winning early rounds could actually hinder your chances later, and delaying too long might mean missing out on playing at all. Luro mentions a powerful team from another testing area will also compete. As the first round is about to start, Luro instructs everyone to press their buzzers before he counts to 5 to participate. Lisu and his team decide to join the first round, facing off against a single opposing team. Anik confidently tells her teammates to stay back, considering the opponents weak enough for her to handle alone. Using her extending weapon, she attacks fiercely. Even when one opponent tries to punch her head-on, it barely phases her and injures him instead. Realizing they can't defeat her, the opponents shift focus to trying to grab the crown, but Anik stops them effortlessly. Lisu demands Anik hand over the crown, arguing he's the weakest and should hold it. Anik refuses, confident she won't lose it herself. As the next round approaches, Bam is shocked to see a girl on the opposing team who resembles Rachel. Lisu continues to press Anik to pass him the crown, but Luro explains once someone sits on the throne, they can't leave without losing the round, a detail Lisu claims they weren't informed of, although Luro mentions it was in the waiting room rules. Sign up for the next round begins, and Rak is about to press the buzzer when Kun stops him, negotiating for 10 chocolate bars in exchange for not pressing it. 2 teams sign up for the next round. Lisu notices one team has a member sleeping, but they dismiss any concerns about needing him to defeat someone they consider weak. The other team launches their attack, and Hots counters by throwing his sword into the air, using his other sword to fend off their advances. Despite one opponent trying to stop Hots, he effortlessly cuts through their weapon. Another opponent hesitates to attack, wary of Hots' dual sword technique. Meanwhile, Lisu holds his ground against the opposing team, but worries about their sleeping teammate, Lore. During a moment of distraction, one of the opponents sneaks up on Lisu with a knife. Lisu steps back, only to be grabbed by the other opponent. Hot swoops in and defeats the other team, saving Lisu in the process. Rak questions why Kun prevented him from pressing the button earlier. Kun explains that under normal circumstances, Rak would have participated in this round. We learn that the sleeping boy is named Lore, who instructed his team to press the buzzer. Kun and Lore explain to their respective teams that having the crown early puts them at a disadvantage, as they'll be targeted by others in subsequent rounds. As more teams join the game, it becomes increasingly chaotic, making it difficult to maintain control over the throne. They conclude that sitting on the throne themselves might be the best strategy, rather than trying to stop others. Rak believes they should have fought in this round, but Bam points out they didn't because Anik is currently on the throne. Lore's teammates are initially hesitant to challenge Anik, but Lore assures them he can handle it if they distract Hots and Lisu. As the action intensifies, Lore wakes up and unleashes a powerful Shinsu blast at Anik. She manages to dodge Lore's attacks, but his teammates try to dislodge her from the throne without success. Lisu and Hots attempt to assist, but Lore launches another Shinsu blast, which Anik narrowly avoids. He taunts her to surrender, boasting he can attack from any angle, but she retaliates angrily, wielding her weapon and counter-trash talking that she can kill everyone from the throne. Anik realizes Bam's weapon is behaving strangely in the waiting room and withdraws her own. Seeing an opportunity, Lore's teammates rescue him, knowing it will disqualify them from the game but preferring it to risking their lives. Anik breaches Bam's waiting room, demanding to know why he possesses the Black March. Observing his struggle to control it, she asserts he isn't worthy and demands he surrender it to her. Lisu questions her drastic actions for just a sword, but Anik reveals it's one of Zahid's legendary 13-month series swords, exclusive to princesses like herself. Hots recognizes the scent on the Black March, confirming her claim. Anik insists Bam relinquish it, but he refuses, citing his promise to return it to Yuri. As tensions rise, Liru intervenes, urging them to return to their waiting room now that they've been disqualified. Anik proposes a wager for the Black March, suggesting that if their team wins the game, she'll give Bam her weapon. Bam hesitates, but Anik threatens to kill him after the game to take the sword anyway, making the bet seem like his best option. This enrages Rak and Kun, who are determined to enter the game. Returning to the waiting room, Anik is agitated by a whisper from another girl in a different team, but Hots intervenes to prevent further conflict. Kun admires Bam's resolve in refusing to hand over the Black March, remembering Rachel's advice never to betray anyone. Bam criticizes himself as useless and weak, but Kun reassures him that his loyalty is what makes him exceptional, especially for keeping his promise under such pressure. The next round begins, this time with multiple teams vying for the crown. They all try to grab the crown but our second in command, Kun, swiftly seizes it but opts not to wear it, instead storing it in his bag, challenging anyone to take it from him. Despite their efforts, Kun defends himself using his bag until he tosses a fake crown into the fray. Meanwhile, Bam seizes the opportunity to sit on the throne while Kun reveals the real crown hidden in his bag, which can produce numerous copies. To show off his skill, Kun disperses hundreds of crowns from his bag. Other teams feel humiliated by his trickery and unite against him. They set to converge on the throne, but Rak intervenes, using his spear to fend them off. Observing the chaos, the team from the other testing area deliberates but decides to wait. Rak comments on Kun's attempt to impress Anik with his bag's capabilities, but Kun clarifies he aimed to display his strength. The fourth round commences with 3 teams entering, but Kun advises Rak against engaging them, opting to conserve their energy for the final round. Bam and Rak are perplexed as the teams appear to be planning to collaborate against them, but one team unexpectedly turns on the others. Bam marvels at Kun's foresight, and Kun explains that during the first test, he had hidden allies in his bag, whom he released after the third test. Kun reveals that he initially didn't plan to ally with Bam and Rak, as the 3 regulars from his bag were sufficient to form a team. After the third test, he released them and briefed them on the plan, using his bandana as a signal. Rak expresses disappointment at not being able to fight, but Kun reassures him with a chocolate bar, promising him a free rein in the final round. Kun emphasizes that while he hadn't intended to deploy his allies so soon, winning this game is crucial as he wishes to ascend the tower with Bam and Rak. His allies successfully defeat the other 2 teams, opting to disqualify themselves, marking the conclusion of the fourth round. As the final round begins, Kun expresses concern about the team from the other testing area. As the round kicks off, a girl named Warren swiftly defeats 2 teams, prompting Kun to task Rak with dealing with her. She attacks Rak with her staff, and despite his efforts to defend, she manages to break through. Just as Warren is about to reach Bam, the girl from the other testing area intervenes, distracting Kun, while a man launches a surprise attack on him. Kun uses his bag to create a copy of his knife and hurls it at his attacker, while Rak engages in combat with another team. Bam notices the girl who resembles Rachel standing beside him, and she assures him they're not after the crown. Bam tries to confirm if she's Rachel, but her teammate steps in. Rak wonders if Kun has struck a deal with them, but Kun explains they're from a different testing area, so there was no time for bribery. Rak deals a decisive headbutt to his opponent, sending him crashing into a wall, while Kun distracts his opponent by throwing knives in the air, seizing the opportunity to land a winning blow. Rak questions why the other team is aiding them, and Kun suspects they have no interest in the crown, believing victory is theirs. During the confrontation, Bam questions the girl if she's Rachel, pondering why he should continue climbing the tower if he's already found her. Meanwhile, Warren continues her skirmish against the other girl, whose heel suddenly breaks. Warren capitalizes on the distraction to charge towards the throne. She bypasses the others and strikes Rachel with her staff, prompting Bam to leave the throne to assist her. Bam throws himself in front of Rachel, taking a blow from Warren that causes him to bleed. Despite feeling he's let down Rak and Kun, he's determined to protect Rachel at all costs. Suddenly, Bam's body releases a surge of energy, shattering Warren's mask, and he prepares to retaliate. However, time freezes abruptly as the spirit from the Black March appears, warning Bam that he's lost control. She kisses him, compelling him to fall asleep. Meanwhile, Luro meets with Yuhan and informs him that no one won the game because Bam's Shinsu destroyed the crown. He questions Yuhan's motive for creating the crown game, suspecting it was to aid Kun, but Luro senses there might have been another objective. Luro observes that the trio of troublemakers behaved oddly by not pursuing the crown and even assisting another team during the game. He speculates that a member of their group might have known one of the participants beforehand, but according to the rules, acquaintances aren't allowed to take the same test. Luro wonders if Yuhan intended to unite them for a specific reason. Yuhan explains that their duty isn't just to identify worthy climbers but also to eliminate threats to the tower. When asked if there were any such individuals in the test, Luro briefly considers Bam but ultimately denies it. Before leaving, Luro queries Yuhan about anyone who can use Shinsu without a contract with an administrator. Yuhan recalls details about a man named Urek Mazzino, an irregular who could defy the tower's laws in such a manner. Meanwhile, Bam remains unconscious, and Kun keeps watch over him. Rachel visits unexpectedly, asking Kun not to tell Bam about her presence because she believes their bond could weaken them both. After Rachel leaves, Rak shows concern for Bam, although he pretends not to care. On another front, Anik attempts to wield the Black March, but the weapon refuses to cooperate with her, insisting it will only speak to a man. Frustrated, Anik brings the sword to Lisu, who also fails to touch it as the Black March declares it will only converse with someone handsome. Indorsi, another girl, recognizes the weapon as belonging to Yuri, one of the princesses who possess a weapon from the 13-month series. Indorsi accuses Anik of being an imposter, which provokes Anik to attack her, but Indorsi effortlessly dodges the blow. Bam eventually wakes up to find Kun informing him he's been asleep for 5 days, causing Bam some worry, although Kun assures him he was fortunate. Meanwhile, Luro addresses everyone, explaining that the next test will soon commence after they select their positions. He emphasizes that battles within the tower are team-based, with each position fulfilling a specific role. The fisherman excels in close combat, followed by the spear-bearers who fight from a distance, and the light-bearers who gather and distribute information. The next category is scouts, who track enemy movements, and finally, wave controllers manipulate Shinsu to control the battlefield. Luro stresses the importance of understanding their assigned roles, as their performance may determine future assignments. Concerned about injuries, Kun asks about their fate, and Luro dismisses it as their own responsibility, revealing Bam has been designated as a wave controller. Due to their instructor Yuga's delay, training will start in 2 days. Kun informs Bam that training begins the following day but expresses greater concern for Rachel. Assuring Bam of her safety, Kun admits she may not be the Rachel he seeks. Reflecting on his own past and wanting to protect Bam from similar disappointment, Kun resolves to support him, even if it means withholding the truth. Considering that if the girl is indeed Rachel, she might not be ready to meet him, Bam decides to focus on becoming stronger to climb the tower with her. In class, Yuga introduces Shinsu as a divine substance capable of controlling everything, emphasizing that exceeding a certain amount requires forming a contract on each floor. Noting Lore's existing contract, Yuga instructs the others to reveal their pockets and close their eyes. He instructs them to command their pockets, and as Bam follows his instructions, he encounters a colossal creature offering to form a contract with him. The creature agrees, but hints that for Bam, it's more of a restraint than a true contract. After class, Bam apologizes to Warren for injuring her during the crown game, but she brushes off his apology, reminding him that he was also injured. Lore's teammate, Ho, introduces himself to Bam and suggests they should support each other. Bam marvels at how he isn't tired despite forming a contract, but later in his room, we see he's utterly exhausted. Bam meets Kun and asks about Rak's whereabouts. Kun explains that Rak was surpassed by another regular in the spear-bearer test, prompting him to venture into the wilderness to become stronger. Bam realizes he also needs to become stronger if he hopes to have a meaningful conversation with Rachel. Lisu and Hats approach them with a request. They need to make 9 friends within a week for the scout test. Kun hesitates, questioning whether they should help since Lisu and Hats were friends with Anik, who stole the Black March. Hats clarifies they've severed ties with her, and Lisu adds that she was the one who abandoned them. Kun probes further, wondering why they would befriend someone who could betray an ally, which irritates Hats, leading him to mock Kun's earrings. Lisu intervenes to stop the argument, noting that Hats's behavior has caused others to refuse friendship with them. Just as tensions rise, Bam suggests they should all be friends, recalling how he was delighted when Kun proposed an alliance during the first test, as he had no one before that. They decide to have lunch together, catching the attention of Indorsi, who wonders about their conversation. Lisu explains their scout test to Indorsi, and Bam invites her to join their group. She expresses interest in getting close to Hats but reveals that such attachments are forbidden in her family. Their conversation is interrupted by Anik, who refers to Indorsi as a princess of Zahid, stunning everyone. Anik notices Bam gazing at the Black March and asserts that she has no intention of returning it, to which Bam shows no interest in reclaiming it. He speculates whether Anik and Indorsi might be Yuri's sisters, prompting Kun to clarify that princesses are chosen based on their family's talents, not familial ties. A game is announced for the next test. Participants must use needles to knock each other off a platform until only 8 remain. Indorsi queries the administrator about safety measures in case of falls. The administrator assures that while measures prevent fatalities, injuries are still possible. The test begins with Anik immediately attacking Endorsi, who pushes her back. Anik mocks Endorsi's claim to being a real princess, asserting that all princesses are imposters. Meanwhile, Kun attends his Lightbearer class, researching Rak's progress and finding little information on Bam and Rachel. Investigating Anik, he discovers that after becoming a ranker, she was chosen as a Zahid princess and wielded the Green April, but he's shocked to find records indicating her death. Back in the test, Endorsi discards her needle and evades Anik. She runs to follow Endorsi while also eliminating others until only 9 participants remain in the game. Endorsi challenges Anik to face her with the Green April, insinuating she's no match without it. Anik retaliates by hurling her needle at Endorsi, who counters with Shinsu, charging forward and knocking Anik down. Attempting to follow up, Anik's attack is thwarted as Endorsi grabs her foot and slams her to the ground, realizing Anik is the child of the original. It's revealed that princesses are forbidden from having children once chosen by Zahid to prevent the spread of their inherited power. Endorsi confronts Anik about her mother's crime of spreading the king's power by having her, but Anik dismisses her, claiming Endorsi doesn't understand hardships. Furious, Anik attacks Endorsi, who skillfully dodges and points out that Anik inherited her powers while Endorsi had to earn her status as a princess. However, Endorsi's heel suddenly breaks, giving Anik an opening to try to knock her off the platform. Endorsi grabs Anik's hand, pleading not to let go, but Anik mercilessly pinches her hand, forcing her to release her grip. Endorsi manages to grab Anik's leg, and they both plummet off the platform. Miraculously, they survive the fall. Endorsi wonders if Anik's mother ever regretted having her, but Anik believes she did not. Meanwhile, Bam continues his Shinsu class where students are attempting to break balloons. Hot struggles with the task, but Yuga praises his improvement. Bam successfully breaks the balloons, and Yuga encourages him, noting he still has a long way to go but is progressing well. Bam thanks Lore for teaching him the balloon-breaking trick, and Hots is curious. Lore explains Bam helped him get a new pillow and taught him the trick as thanks. Kun calls Bam away, and Hots comments it's unusual for Lore to assist others. Kun informs Bam about the clash between Endorsi and Anik, criticizing their self-destructive behavior despite their considerable power. Their discussion is interrupted by Lisu, who reminds them their deadline to make 9 friends is today, but they've fallen short. Bam wonders if there's anything they can do to assist, while Kun initially sees failure as beneficial for reducing enemies. Bam insists on helping their friends, prompting Kun to agree to assist them. Bam and Hots visit the injured Endorsi, who is starving after spending all her points on treating her injuries. They propose giving her food in exchange for becoming their friend. Reluctantly, Endorsi gives in to her hunger and signs their friendship form. They apply the same tactic to Anik, successfully completing their task. Lisu and Hots express gratitude to Bam for his help, but Kun insists they should be thanking him, as he devised the plan. This sparks an argument between Kun and Hots, with Lisu suggesting they acknowledge Kun's role, eventually leading Hots to show his appreciation. During lunch together, Endorsi spots Rachel and confronts her in the washroom, questioning why she's pushing Bam away. Rachel remains silent, prompting Endorsi to express her hope that whatever Rachel seeks at the tower's top is worth more than Bam. In the Wave Controller class, Ho wonders if Bam is keeping secrets from him, but he focuses more on passing the test. After another failed attempt, Ho returns to his room, where he reflects on his past and breaks down in tears. Suddenly, he receives a surprising letter. Meanwhile, Luro is surprised by Yuhan's decision to test the regulars with a game of tag for their positions, but their discussion is interrupted by Quant. Quant apologizes to Luro for the inconvenience caused by 3 extra regulars and proposes a joint test. Luro announces that the 28 regulars who haven't passed their tests will participate in the tag game. Rak finds humor in this, having already passed his test. He explains they will be split into 2 teams, with their scores based on individual performance. Yuhan clarifies that unlike traditional tag, each team will have a designated target wearing a badge, and the game will unfold in a vast arena. To win the game, their team must either guide their designated target to the goal or snatch the badge from the pursuing examiner. If they succeed with the first method, each team member earns 100,000 points. If they snatch the badge, they get 200,000 points. Losing their own badge means elimination. Their opponent is Quant, and Kuan takes charge of his team. He starts by using Lisu as bait, although Lee Su doubts Quant will fall for such an obvious ploy. Kuan remains confident because he knows Quant is easily provoked. When Quant arrives, he remarks that their light bearers lack experience. He explains that a lighthouse relies on Shinsu. If its operator loses consciousness, the team loses its sight. Quant swiftly disables one light bearer, causing their lighthouse to crash. He expects the other light bearer to be with their target. As he approaches Lee Su, he's surprised by Anik attacking from above with another lighthouse. Anik attempts to strike, but Quant disarms her and pulls her down. Lyra observes and notes Quant's difficulty controlling his anger, even against a weaker opponent. Despite his limited Shinsu usage in the arena, he doubts they can continue the test. Quant restrains his temper and compliments their strategy, asking their next move. They flee, and Quant gives them a head start, opting to take the stairs instead of the elevator. Lyra questions why Quant would use such a straightforward plan against a ranker, but Yuhan suspects Quant has a strategy in mind. Meanwhile, Indorsi asks Bam why he seems anxious, and he admits he can't see Rachel anywhere. In the match, Anik uses the elevator to reach the roof, and Lee Su believes they've already won. Quant suddenly appears before them, vanishes, and causes panic. He reappears, dodging their attacks effortlessly and systematically defeating them one by one. One team member tries to overpower Quant with brute strength but fails. Quant warns that those overconfident in their strength perish first. Indorsi advises Bam to take pleasure in the other team's misfortune, as their failure could mean his success in the position test. However, Bam remains more concerned about Rachel's fate. Kuan updates everyone that Quant has bested the team on the stairs and will soon catch up to Anik. Lee Su suggests calling for Laura's assistance, but Kuan reveals Laura is resting and already insured to pass the test according to information from his light-bearer class. Luro fears they're on the verge of losing, but Rak trusts Kuan has another plan. Luro wonders if Kuan used his bag to copy the badge, but Yuhan dismisses it, knowing Shinsu prevents such copying or compression. Returning to the match, Lee Su regroups with his team, only for Quant to confront them. Despite their efforts, Quant defeats them and continues toward the bridge. Spotting Kuan, Quant inquires about Anik's whereabouts. Kuan claims she jumped off the bridge to head towards the exit. Disbelieving, Quant hesitates to jump from such a height. Unbeknownst to him, moments earlier, Kuan had used his bag to copy Anik's lighthouse and hid her below the bridge. Quant figures out Kuan's tactic, noting he can sense the Shinsu in the hidden lighthouse despite its glow being off. Kuan denies it, prompting Quant to grab his hand and jump, hoping Kuan will reveal Anik's location. In midair, Kuan breaks free from Quant's grip. Meanwhile, Anik uses her weapon to catch Kuan, allowing her to reach the bridge. Luro assumes the test is finished as Quant lacks enough Shinsu to ascend the bridge. Unexpectedly, someone offers Quant help. Anik approaches the exit but is stunned when Quant reappears, snatching the badge. Kuan takes responsibility for their defeat, but his team praises his ingenious plan, confident the opposing team won't devise a better strategy. However, it's revealed Kuan and Lore aided Quant in returning to the bridge, leaving Luro questioning Kuan's loyalty. Yuhan shows Luro the list of friends from the scout class, emphasizing they are Kuan's true team. Yuhan believes Kuan's aim was to guide his friends to pass, as they are who he wants to ascend the tower with, though he acknowledges Quant will challenge them. As the next round looms, competition heats up to determine the team leader, with Indorsi ultimately chosen to lead. She instructs all the fishermen to coordinate their movements, but two spear-bearers oppose the idea, insisting they should be the ones to capture Quant. Hots dismisses them as foolish, pointing out from watching the other team's round that they can't catch Quant alone, making their plan the best option. The others disagree and threaten Hots, demanding his cooperation to secure victory. Hots demands their apologies and takes their spears as a show of authority. Meanwhile, Ho's teammate Serena confides in him about her doubts regarding continuing to climb the tower, unable to bear the thought of killing the friends she's made. She reveals her past as a cat burglar who boarded a ship where Rancor was present, leading to the death of her friends. She was hopeless until Hedon appeared and brought her to the tower. Initially, she survived by eliminating everyone she encountered to stay in the tower, but now she feels differently. Ho reassures her that everyone's actions are driven by the desire to climb the tower, with no lingering resentments. On the other hand, Quant begins hunting them down, but unexpectedly, Indorsi turns on her teammates. She opens up about her upbringing in the household of a fallen noble family, the least significant among the 10 great families. To produce a princess of Zahid, they adopted talented girls and pitted them against each other. Meals were allocated based on training rankings, with higher ranks enjoying lavish dinners while lower ranks received meager rations. Frustrated with her constant diet of stale bread, Indorsi eliminated her sisters to gain the freedom to eat what she desired. Indorsi mocks them for falling for her strategy, revealing her aim to eliminate all the other fishermen to secure her passage. She advises Bam that climbing the tower requires such ruthless actions, urging him to meet Rachel if he's ready for that level of commitment. Meanwhile, Hotz shares his plan to halt Quant, allowing the spear-bearers to ambush him from concealment. When Quant confronts them, Hotz attempts an attack but loses one of his swords in the process. Indorsi continues to overpower her teammates, ignoring Bam's pleas to cease, asserting they are rivals in the position test. Convinced they are weak and should give up, Bam reminds her of her own past weakness and subsequent growth through perseverance. Despite Bam's disapproval of her methods, Indorsi insists she must do whatever it takes to achieve her goals. Tensions escalate when one teammate's sword begins to glow, prompting him to attack Indorsi, but Bam intervenes to protect her. Meanwhile, Hotz persists in his assault on Quant, who easily evades his strikes, leaving Hotz aware of the imminent danger. Realizing he must act while Quant is not fully focused on him, Hotz attempts a surprise attack from the shadows, only to be caught and thrown into a wall. Ho confronts Rachel, brandishing a knife and revealing a letter suggesting Bam would leave if she were eliminated. Luro insists they intervene, but Yuhan asserts they must allow the test to proceed. Meanwhile, Bam tells Indorsi he can't sacrifice others to climb the tower, his priority is protecting Rachel. Indorsi counters that Rachel doesn't desire this protection. Bam affirms his unchanging feelings and sets off to find Rachel, but he struggles to locate her. Ho anticipates Bam will track Rachel through her lighthouse signal, but his plans are disrupted when Quant suddenly appears behind him. As Bam arrives, Ho realizes the letter was a setup. Ho urges Bam to confront Quant and demonstrate his strength, or Rachel will suffer. Bam prepares to attack, but Quant swiftly immobilizes him with Shinsu, proposing that he can save Rachel by complying. Quant departs, but Rachel tries to flee from Ho, who inadvertently wounds her in the struggle. Bam manages to halt Ho with Quant's technique, but Rachel is already injured and unconscious. Bam questions Ho's motives, learning Ho believed Bam's absence would facilitate his tower ascent. Bam expresses his betrayal, noting he considered Ho a friend. Ho breaks down, revealing his history of loss and lack of power compared to Bam and Lore. He seizes the knife and takes his own life, prompting Bam to weep, though Quant coldly admonishes him not to mourn a traitor. Indorsi arrives, unsurprised by the turn of events, and surprises Quant by opting to capture him instead of heading for the exit. Confident in her guaranteed passage, she aims to spice things up. However, Serena, noticing Indorsi holding their teammate's sword, confronts her with a slap, accusing her of betrayal. Indorsi asserts they must see the test through, warning that Rachel's life hangs in the balance. Serena moves to strike again, but Indorsi emphasizes the urgency of their situation. Before facing Quant, she advises Bam that more challenges and pain await if he continues on this path, urging him to press forward without regrets. The battle begins with Indorsi wielding the sword's power against Quant, who deftly evades her strikes. He attempts to close in, but Bam intervenes with his earlier learned technique, impressing Quant with his swift mastery. Despite their combined efforts, Quant eludes their attacks and manages to seize Indorsi's jacket, where she had concealed the badge. Indorsi leans in close to Quant, feigning attraction to distract him, but reveals she had already taken his badge, securing their team's victory. Rack informs everyone that Rachel's ally vanished during the tag match, and Indorsi acknowledges knowing little about him since he hardly speaks. She mentions seeing the big guy with Rachel, prompting Kun to warn her against mentioning Rachel in front of the others. But Indorsi thinks it's time to reveal that Rachel is the girl Bam has sought all along. Prior to the tag match, Kun discovers only 2 wave controllers will pass, with Lore assured a spot. He investigates potential threats to Bam, but Waryun arrives, informing Kun she's withdrawing. She warns about Ho's potential threat due to his animosity towards Bam. Acting on Waryun's advice, Kun anonymously sends Ho the letter that triggered his actions. Meanwhile, Rak bangs on Kun's door and reveals he's been shrunk by Yuhan's magic due to his disrespect. Rak asks Kun to use his bag to restore him, but Kun explains it's impossible. When Bam visits, he mentions Rachel's injury is more severe than anticipated, rendering her unable to walk. Bam resolves to act as Rachel's legs to reach the tower's peak and seeks their support. The group gathers at Ho's graveside for a heartfelt farewell, where Bam expresses gratitude to Rachel for attending the funeral. She tearfully confesses that she left Bam because she feared he'd hinder her tower ascent. Rachel urges him to abandon her, convinced she's a burden, but Bam insists no one can replace her, despite the many friends he's made. Later that night, Lisu catches Serena attempting to leave the tower. She explains she wants to find a reason for her survival and entrusts her knife to Lisu before departing. Meanwhile, Yuhan observes Yuga, secretly known as Rin, in conversation with someone. Yuhan addresses him by his real name and questions how long he's known about Rin's true identity, noting the real Yuga's punctuality. Rin opts to fight Yuhan, summoning a massive snake from the ground, but a giant eel swiftly decapitates it before attacking Rin. Rin expresses satisfaction at having someone to fight, but Yuhan has no desire to engage a rancor from Zahid's army. He reveals Rin's mission to eliminate Onic and retrieve the Green April and Black March. He offers his assistance to Rin in achieving his objective, citing his duty to eliminate any threats to the Zod family. Liru and Yuhan announce the results of the position test, confirming Bam and his companions have passed. However, Liru notes Rachel's disqualification due to her injuries. Dissatisfied, one regular protests the results, prompting Yuhan to offer him a chance, endure 1 minute of a rigorous test to potentially pass. The regular collapses from the pain. Yuhan prepares to reveal the final test when Kuan interrupts, expressing his own dissatisfaction with the results. Confused, Yuhan questions Kuan's stance, given that he passed. Kuan insists on allowing Rachel to participate, despite her disqualification under current rules. Yuhan explains the rule barring her participation, specific to their tests, but Kuan asserts his intention to challenge the administrator's rules. Liru clarifies their authority to administer tests while acknowledging the administrator's overarching authority to set rules and tests. Kuan presses on, proposing to take the test with Rachel's participation on the line. Yuhan warns of the test's difficulty, suggesting Kuan opt for the standard test instead. Intrigued, Yuhan questions Kuan's knowledge of this test, to which Kuan reveals his affiliation with the Kuan family. Yuhan asserts that only an irregular can negotiate to take the test, instructing Kuan to return to his seat. The group is astonished when Bam reveals his irregular status and decides to proceed with the test. Debate ensues among the others about whether to support Bam. While everyone was confused if this supporting Bam is beneficial or not, Liru highlights the benefits of aiding him, a fast track to the tower's summit but also the stigma of allying with an irregular. Kuan opts not to assist Bam, prompting Rak to call him a coward. Others see through Kuan's act, knowing he's goading them into supporting Bam, which they've already decided to do. Bam returns from meeting the administrator, announcing he and Rachel have permission for the test. Yuhan explains the final challenge, an underwater hunt where they'll be hunted by net dolphins using Shinsu to trap fish. Their task is to use a Shinsu bubble to descend underwater, get eaten by the dolphin queen along with the fish, and then be expelled onto land to pass. Lisu queries their role, learning barnacle goblins employ giant worms to steal fish from the dolphins. If Bam's group is devoured by these worms, they fail. Yuhan explains that the striped earth pigs are natural enemies of the goblins and worms, causing the dolphins to flee upon sensing them. Their task is to ensure the dolphins can hunt freely while avoiding encounters with the fearsome bull, which even rancors struggle against. Bam reassures Rachel inside the Shinsu bubble, mentioning Kuan's group will handle their part. Kuan acknowledges they can't use lighthouses underground, opting instead to fortify the surface. Hot's group monitors goblin movements, spear-bearers wait on high ground for worm reactions, and Lisu's group watches for earth pigs, though he finds himself alone as his team disperses. Kuan questions Lisu's support for Bam, learning from Serena that Bam's brightness stems from retaining what others lost before entering the tower, a reason Lisu wants him to keep what he has. Hot reports a group disappearance, and suddenly the bowl confronts Lisu. Inside the bubble, Rachel asks Bam if he envisioned this future, to which he replies that whenever he thought of the future, it always involved being with her. Meanwhile, the bull charges towards the dolphins, prompting Lisu to throw a rock to divert its attention, but it disregards him. He resorts to using his knife, stabbing the bull, which enrages it into attacking him. Just as it's about to devour Lisu, Anik and Dorsey intervene, not to rescue him but to confront the bull themselves. Dorsey kicks it to the ground. Anik warns Dorsey not to interfere, and Dorsey proposes a wager. They take turns fighting the bull for 5-minute intervals. If Dorsey defeats the bull, she claims the 13-month series swords. If Anik wins, Dorsey becomes her servant for life. Meanwhile, the worms begin their movements underground, prompting Kuan to instruct everyone to await his commands, emphasizing the critical moment they must not miss. The dolphins' nets start to encircle Bam and Rachel, frustrating Kuan as he struggles to see what's happening. However, their teammate Nair comes up with an idea. Dorsey continues her assault on the bull, but it keeps getting back up. Despite being caught briefly, she manages to break free from its grasp. As it disappears into darkness, Anik pursues the bull, noting her time limit has expired, while Dorsey also chases after, believing she still has time left. Suddenly, a divine sea fish glides through the air and reveals an underground pathway, leaving Kuan puzzled as to why Nair didn't disclose she's an anima capable of controlling these creatures. Nair explains that while the divine fish can detect surroundings using sonar, it lacks combat abilities, though Kuan admires this unique skill nonetheless. He wonders if an anima could control other animals like the dolphins or the bull, but Nair clarifies she lacks that capability, which might be achievable for a rancor. Inside the Shinsu bubble, Bam reflects on his encounter with the administrator, recounting how he was asked about his desires upon reaching the tower's summit. He recalls envisioning Rachel's face first, followed by a scene of everyone eating together happily, but before he could answer, the administrator vanished. Meanwhile, Hatsa's team is discovered by a goblin, and their cover is blown when their teammate Pericule kills it. Dorsey locates the bull but is taken aback by its enhanced agility, realizing it has grown stronger. The bull catches her once more, this time rendering her unconscious as she struggles to break free. Meanwhile, Anik encounters Rin, who shocks her by revealing the necklace she once gave to her mother. Furious, she tries to attack him, but Rin unleashes monsters from his mouth that send her flying. Despite her relentless attempts, Rin incapacitates her by stabbing her with his tongue, expressing disappointment in her actions. Struggling to retrieve her weapon, Anik finds Rin has consumed it, blaming her pursuit of revenge for her current predicament. Just as Rin prepares to deliver a fatal blow, he decides to have some amusement and summons the bull, which has Dorsey trapped in its clutches. Anik realizes Rin is controlling the bull, revealing the underwater hunt was a setup to target her. The bull releases Dorsey upon Rin's command, and he offers her the green April, urging her to eliminate Anik, whom he identifies as Zahad's adversary. Meanwhile, Lisu searches for Anik and Dorsey, suddenly sensing a powerful presence behind him. Yuri appears. Dorsey accepts the green April but surprises everyone by returning it to Anik instead of attacking. She then takes the Black March from Anik, and together they decide to confront Rin. Using her skills, Anik creates a tornado around herself, allowing her sword to strike continuously, but Rin manages to evade most of her attacks. Dorsey joins the fray with the Black March, and when Rin attempts to dodge her strikes, Anik uses the green April to slam him into a nearby rock. Dorsey believes they won, but Rin unleashes a lightning attack from his mouth, sending her flying. He then subdues Anik, threatening to kill both her and Dorsey. However, just as Rin prepares to deliver the final blow, Yuri and Lisu arrive to intervene, catching him off guard. Confused by Yuri's presence, Rin attempts to introduce himself, but Yuri pays him no heed as she notices the Black March. Rin explains he's there on orders from Zahad to retrieve the swords, but Yuri dismisses him, ordering him to leave immediately. Rin taunts Yuri, suggesting Zahad won't be pleased if he learns a princess is protecting an impostor. This provokes Yuri's anger, causing the ground to shatter around her as she gives Rin a final warning to leave or face consequences. Unfazed and excited by the challenge, Rin attacks Yuri with his monstrous creations from his mouth, but she swiftly dispatches them. Closing in on him, Yuri demonstrates her immense power by effortlessly destroying everything in her path with a simple flick of her finger. Meanwhile, inside the Shinsu bubble, Bam and Rachel notice their hands glowing with light. Bam remarks on the beauty of the light but comments that it's still too bright for comfort. Rak grows weary of evading the goblins and decides to take action by charging towards them, leaping onto one of the worms. Despite Rak's efforts to fend off the goblins, their numbers overwhelm him, leaving Pericule fearing for his life. Suddenly everyone begins floating in the air. Pericule, bewildered, wonders if he caused this, but Hots directs his attention behind, where they see Lore arriving to aid them. The appearance of striped earth pigs emerging from the worms catches Pericule off guard, but Nair explains that this was all part of Kuin's strategy. She reveals that they've discovered an underground tunnel used by the dolphins to access water, and Kuin deduced that the pigs were likely using the same route. Kuin instructed Lore to collapse the tunnel, inadvertently diverting the pigs towards the goblins. Meanwhile, Kuin is confronted by a family member. Expecting a fight, Kuin prepares himself, but the boy advises him against it, claiming Kuin stands no chance against him. In the midst of their operations, Lero and his team detect an intruder breaching the test area, stirring curiosity and concern. Their efforts are thwarted when a companion of Kuin's intervenes, disabling their communication channels with a simple press of a button. Quant grows frustrated, but Yuhan reminds everyone that the test is under the direct supervision of the administrator, making interference impossible. Kuin, puzzled by the appearance of a family member, questions the motives behind the visit. The boy cryptically offers Kuin a chance to see Maria, sparking Kuin's confusion over such an unexpected gesture. The boy reveals he finds amusement in defying his family's expectations, having himself been cast out. Kuin declines the offer, asserting that his ambitions in climbing the tower extend beyond personal desires like reuniting with Maria. The boy questions his resolve, hinting at hidden ambitions. Before tensions escalate further, Hots intervenes, prompting the boy to reconsider and withdraw. Meanwhile, Evan and Yuri's ally, Kuridon, attempt to reach Yuri, only to encounter Yuhan blocking their path. Evan quickly realizes that Ivankel isn't present. He suspects that an assassin loyal to Zahid has infiltrated the testing area. Yuhan is aware of the assassin's goal to retrieve the Black March. Evan grasps that Yuhan intentionally allowed the assassin free rein, likely to maintain control over the unfolding events. Meanwhile, Yuri continues her intense battle against Rin. Evan, using his pocket to communicate with Yuri, urges her not to assist Anik directly, prompting Endorsi to declare their resolve to handle Rin themselves. Rin knows that even though he is heavily injured, he can wipe the floor with the two kids. Endorsi boldly asserts that if loyalty to a friend brands her a traitor, then so be it. Yuri, disengaging from Rin, instructs Kuridon to deal with him. From above, Kuridon descends and unleashes his hammer, driving Rin forcefully into the ground. In his final moments, Rin reveals that he has dispatched a bull to hunt down Bam and Rachel, due to their irregular status. Yuri orders the test's destruction, but Yuhan warns it will cause Bam to fail. Yuri initially dismisses this, but Anik convinces her it's crucial they climb the tower together. Meanwhile, Bam struggles against the bull's relentless attacks using Shinsu. Suddenly, his Shinsu glows brightly, and the bull swallows him. Inside, Bam channels his power, blasts the bull apart, and escapes back to the Shinsu bubble. Yuri grabs the green April from Rin and tells Anik to reclaim it when she's ready. She also gives Lisu a message for Bam, directing him to go to the 77th floor for reasons yet undisclosed. Bam reassures Rachel he'll take her to the tower summit, but she unexpectedly pushes him out of the Shinsu bubble. She thinks it's over, but Hidon watches, noting their journey is just beginning. Flashbacks show Rachel's initial entry into the tower, where she met Hidon in the same room as Bam. Hidon revealed that Rachel was not the chosen one, leading her to beg to stay and climb the tower. Hidon reluctantly gave her the same test as Bam. Rachel complained that the test was unfair and impossible, but Hidon silenced her, telling her to witness the emergence of a savior. She was shocked when Bam entered the tower and questioned why Hidon called him the savior. Hidon hid Rachel so she could watch Bam's initiation and tests. Afterward, he confronted her, questioning if she understood why she wasn't chosen. He called her weak, but Rachel insisted on her desire to climb the tower and see the stars. Hidon argued that her true ambition was to become a star herself. Rachel pleads for a chance to prove herself, and Hidon gives her a chilling ultimatum: she can climb the tower if she kills Bam. He reminds her that she abandoned Bam when he was no longer useful to her. Rachel mentions Bam has the Black March and asks for a weapon, but Hidon assigns her a bodyguard instead. Throughout Bam's trials, Rachel secretly wishes someone would kill him, a task she can't do herself. Meanwhile, Yuhan tells Ryan to monitor Bam and assess his worthiness, with Rachel serving as bait in their larger scheme. Rachel, knowing she must eliminate Bam, instructs Kun to keep her identity hidden from him, keeping her distance and waiting for the right moment to strike. As time passes, Rachel becomes increasingly worried about using her resources, points, fearing that if she fails to kill Bam, she won't have enough to continue climbing the tower. While Ryan questions Rachel's commitment to climbing the tower, and Rachel confirms it as her primary goal. While Ryan advises her to align with an impending disturbance, suggesting she stay close to Bam. Rachel is initially confused, but while Ryan assures her she will understand when the time is right. When Ho captures her during an incident, Rachel realizes Ryan's strategy and allows herself to be stabbed, knowing this sacrifice will create an opportunity to eliminate Bam. Her plan unfolds smoothly, culminating in Ho's funeral, where she manipulates events to her advantage. Rachel then confronts Bam, urging him to abandon her to avoid having to kill him. However, Bam remains loyal, calling her the light in his life. Despite his words, Rachel feels consumed by darkness and resentment, especially as Bam forms bonds with others. When Bam prepares to meet the administrator, Yuhan warns Rachel that this is her last chance to climb the tower. Together in the Shinsu bubble, Rachel realizes she must take decisive action to shape her fate. As Rachel spends more time with Bam, she realizes he is destined to shine, not her. Although Bam wants to climb the tower together, Rachel understands that staying with him means she will never achieve her dream of becoming a star. During the underwater test, Rachel is ejected onto the ground by the Dolphin Queen, claiming they were attacked by the bull and that Bam is missing. She collapses but wakes up in her room, where Ryan congratulates her on executing their plan. Meanwhile, Luro informs everyone that despite a thorough search, Bam's body couldn't be found, speculating he may have been consumed by a fish. Pericule nervously asks about the test results, but the others shush him. Luro confirms that everyone has passed and that they will receive further instructions later. When Luro confronts Yuhan about Rachel's actions, Yuhan asserts that Rachel acted on her own. Despite the confusion and concern, Hats insists they owe it to Bam to fulfill his dreams, deciding to support Rachel in climbing the tower and reaching its summit. Luro makes a bold decision to step down from his role as a test administrator, and he informs Quan that he's also being let go. He invites Quan to join him on his journey to climb the tower in search of the truth. Meanwhile, Yuhan acknowledges that their plan has succeeded as all of Zahard's followers believe Bam perished. In reality, Waryung visits Bam, who is alive and protected by Shinsu. As Bam wakes up, he questions what happened to him and Rachel. Waryung reveals that Rachel pushed him out of the Shinsu bubble, emphasizing that Bam has the potential to become a savior and even a god within the tower. She suggests that to truly understand Rachel's actions, he must reach the tower's summit, offering to train him for this journey. Initially skeptical about finding answers at the tower's peak, Bam resolves to climb and seek out the truth for himself.